if your gut's healthy, why do you need probiotic rich foods? Which I thought this is a common perception. I think for a lot of people, they're like, it's just not important if your gut is healthy. But I would probably argue that most, if not all of us, have gut health issues we need to work on, even if we're not aware of it presently.
Yeah. Oh my God. Again, such a good conversation. I think what we have to realize is that, we always talk about the trillions of bacteria in our gut, but if you look at species wise, how many species of bacteria are in there? The statistics I've seen have been anywhere from a couple thousand up to 7,000 different types of bacteria. And each one of these bacteria are going to do something different. And they each have a food that they're going to resonate with that the other set of bacteria may not. So my experience has been, and I'd be curious your opinion on this as well, has been that people eat the same foods over and over and over again. Sauerkraut can be the same thing. You eat the same sauerkraut over and over and over again. And so you create a monoculture. And I think what we've got to get back to is understanding that the name of the game is to keep diversifying your foods so that you can keep neurotransmitter production up. You can keep your immune system up so you can feed the bacteria that break estrogen down. And so those become massively important, whether you've trying to repair your gut or not. I don't have any gut problems. Feeding these microbes is on my mind every single day.
Yeah. And I always jokingly say that monogamy is a good thing in relationships, but food monogamy is not. We want to try different things. And I'm as guilty of it as the next person. Like, I love steak. I love bison. I love eggs. I incorporate them throughout the week, but I'm always trying different fermented foods because I'm dairy free. So for me, it's really like leaning into those fermented vegetables, but I have fermented okra. I mean, I have kraut. I have multiple kinds of kraut. In fact, my husband told me the other day, he thinks we have science experiments going on the top shelf. And I'm like, no, they're all healthy.
Right.
But, he's like, anyone that wants to eat fermented okra, he's like, only my wife. And I said, no, but it's good to try different things every day because I fervently believe, and as someone who, 3.5 years ago, I was on 6 weeks of antifungals, antibiotics, and then got another round of antibiotics when I had my appendix out. And so I remind people that just one dose of antibiotics can impact your gut microbiome, I think anywhere from 18 months to 2 years. And so for me, I'm still actively working diligently on my gut. And you just think about the average person probably needs more fermented foods, beverages, et cetera, than they're probably consuming right now.
And on that point, I also, if you eat out, you're getting glyphosate. And if you eat wheat, the wheat right now has, in America has BT toxin in it, which is going to affect those microbes. So we live in this world where there's so many things trying to deplete our microbial health. Let's make a stand for always helping to grow it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and especially, as we are getting older, understanding that, as we have less hydrochloric acid production, as we could potentially be, no longer making as vibrant digestive enzymes, as we are exposed to more estrogen mimicking chemicals in our food, environment, personal care products, just understanding that we diligently every day want to be doing, even if it's small things that are going to benefit the gut microbiome. I always say I humbly bow at the temple that is the gut microbiome, because the more I learn, the more I just kind of am fascinated that we humans kind of bumble through life and don't even think about it.
Yes. Amen to that.
Next question is about, if I indulge in something sweet from time to time, would organic sugar or maybe honey be better than, say, agave, or should I use pure stevia?
Oh my gosh. These are good questions. I love it. Okay. Well, I think you got to look at what personal preference. So I personally do not like stevia. I don't gravitate to stevia type foods. So there's that. And then you could look at the glycemic index and say, well, okay, stevia's got 0, supposedly. Agave's, I think, under like 10 on the glycemic index. It's a little bit lower. Honey's around a 30 or a 40, and organic sugar, even though it's organic, is up around a 70. And the higher the glycemic number, the more of an insulin response you're going to have. So you choose, you're going to have to think about that if you're concerned about your sugar addiction or craving. Now, the nuance on that is stevia sometimes can trigger that same sort of desire for more sugar. So it's a really tricky one. But I would say I choose mine off a personal preference, and I choose it off glycemic index. And I don't know about you, Cynthia, but I've spent a lot of years as a sugar addict. And for me, I know if I eat sugar like 3 days in a row, there becomes like a point of no return where now I have to really hunker down to make sure I don't. don't have sugar again. So I'm very, very careful to not have it too much for fear that will trigger that old pattern back.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I would imagine most, if not all of us, are actually at least mildly addicted to sugar because it just proliferates. It's in our condiments, it's in our ketchup, it's in our salad dressings. I would agree with you that for each one of us, we have to decide, can we tolerate one square of high quality dark chocolate?
Right.
Can we tolerate some of these items? Like I really don't use honey. I mean, maybe in the past I might have used honey, but I really tried to avoid using a lot of sugars personally, because as you mentioned, you start getting this dopamine hit. It feels good. You want more. Obviously we're heading into Christmas at my house and New Year's. We'll have family here in a couple of days. And I was actually saying to my kids, for me, I have to plan, like if I'm going to indulge in something, I know what the net impact will be the following day. So it's finding, I tolerate a little bit. Personally, I find that a lot of the artificial or the contrived sugars, monk fruit, thyrotol, tend to be perhaps a little bit better tolerated. People can tolerate some of the sugar alcohols, like with thyrotol. My 15-year-old has been experimenting with Swerve, which has been interesting to watch. With that being said, I generally say agave is a no-go because agave is straight fructose and it's metabolized very differently. And I know a lot of people still think of it as being very benign. I watched a friend pouring it all over her pancakes and I kind of just cringed watching it, thinking that this is not going to have a good end result. And I've talked quite a bit, and I'm sure you probably have seen that paper about non-nutritive sweeteners that came out probably 2 months ago that was talking about the net impact of sucralose, NutraSweet, saccharin, which I don't know where anyone is using any saccharin at this point in time. And then looking at stevia, and just for a 28-day period, using those sweeteners, again, some are artificial, depending on what type of stevia it wasn't identified, change the gut microbiome as well as impact oral glucose tolerance. And so I think it really speaks to the fact that all of us need to examine our relationship with sugar.